Sure, you can clap for no reason. That's fine.
I mean, if it makes you feel better about yourself.
If
I'm not going to stop you.
It makes me feel included.
Inclusivity here at the Blue Eclipse Studios. Located in beautiful Burbank, California. They don't even know where we actually live, Tyler.
When did we get to California?
Because that's where all the YouTube stuff is happening.
I thought the point was to not be in California.
Did you watch that video?
Maybe.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate
What
that.
a guy.
Wow, look at this. Look at that. People are watching our videos, even though it feels like no one is.
I may have,
Brand
you
loyalty.
know, I may have like searched for your channel for like an hour looking for that video with me in it.
Oh, I forgot to
guy.
send it to you, didn't I?
What
Yeah,
a
you
guy.
did.
I forgot to send it. I was like, I'll send you the Detective Pikachu car review.
You didn't.
I even remembered that I forgot to send it to you, so...
What a good friend.
Hey, you found it, though.
Yeah, after an hour.
did
That was
find
fun. Looking for this obscure channel.
It's not that obscure. We got like 30-something subscribers.
It took me an hour.
I'd recommend not.
An hour.
We're the first, when you put in Blue Eclipse Studios, we are the first thing to pop up, sir.
I didn't know what it was called.
That's fair. That's fair. Hey, everybody, welcome to Blue Eclipse Studios. Where we will not change the name because we're stubborn. My name is Frank Joseph Hall.
I'm Tyler Spence.
I'm Zachary Richard Dunkerton.
Whoa, you're going with the middle name. Oh, snap. Everyone, welcome our first guest, Zachary Richard Dunkerton. Wow. Well, okay, you know what? We take back the guest status. Can we give it to someone else?
No, he's just a pawn now.
Yeah, no. He is just, everyone's just a pawn in the Game of Thrones.
A useful pot.
Yeah, you're gonna... That joke probably just flew right over my head. But that's fine.
You'll catch up. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, not before the season finale, but...
Which will have already happened by the time of this showing.
This is true.
Yeah. You will be years behind in TV standards.
Yeah.
Everyone will have stopped complaining, and they'll be on to the next thing to complain about.
No, there'll be at least some people still complaining.
There's always people complaining. So yeah, we have a first guest who may or may not be returning, depending on how he does. No pressure.
I'll try my best, guys. I'll try my best.
Just for reference, Zach is a guy I met through a Bible study, and then we played D&D. First online and then in person.
Praise Jesus.
Yep, he is currently wearing a Jesus Saves All Others Take Half Damage shirt. It is his favorite shirt.
It is. I had to start a new count about that, by the way.
Yeah.
At first it was, okay, who's going to mention Jesus? Who's going to mention D&D? And now it's just people who just go, nice shirt, and they don't go either way with it.
It's like, which one are you referencing? Please, tell me.
I need to know if you're one of us or one of us.
I'm keeping a spreadsheet, please let me. Fun fact, Darius actually overheard his manager and one of his team leaders at his job talking about D&D, and he's like, I'm like, good, you've already had that. You've already had the first, I hear D&D. I must go.
It's
and I've
pretty
had talks,
great.
Yeah, I've had talks with them about it. Yeah, so yeah. Zach, you said you had, as is tradition here on Blue Eclipse for the first time, the guest, if they have a topic, can come up with a topic. Of course, we always can defer to the bowl of random topics that we've only literally done once.
There's a bowl.
Of
There is, in
random
fact,
topics.
a bowl of random topics. Placed right up there.
Conveniency. The bowl.
Super
of random
convenient.
topics. You don't have to do that, though. That's just there for whenever we decide to actually use it, which we've done one episode of. You can go check that out at some point.
On our channel.
Yeah, this obscure channel.
Oh, actually, before we get into that, go watch Chore Wars. The first episode should be out by now.
Yes.
It is a fun, I'm not going to say series because that sounds serial like we're planning, scripted. It's just going to be a fun thing that we're going to do every week.
It'll be a good time.
Oh boy, does it go places.
Yes, sir.
Tyler is still salty.
A little bit.
Anyway.
I'll get over it.
No, you won't. All
Eventually.
right. Topic, sir.
All right, something I thought you guys might have an opinion of is the Matt Mercer Effect.
Ooh, okay. Okay, first off, goodbye everyone who does not play D&D. We will miss you.
Out of our 33 subscribers,
Goodbye.
like out 4 or 5 of you.
You will miss me.
And hello everyone who's not subscribed yet. We do like D&D, I promise you that. We will hopefully at some point
It
make
will
a
be
live
on this
stream.
channel.
We'll make one at some point, we promise. Yeah, we have to get there. But, Dunkerton, would you mind introducing what the Matt Mercer Effect is?
Yeah, because fun fact, I haven't actually seen the Taking 20 video on this yet.
Yeah.
Even though I've been staring at the thumbnail for the past...
Did we just name drop? Ooh.
That's where that video.
Yeah, no, I get you.
Yeah,
Continue.
the Matt Mercer effect is when you could be a player or a GM, but your expectations are you watch Critical Role or you watch even other shows like the guys from Talking 20 or anyone
Rollers, really
High
any-
Rollers,
any
anything
interaction.
Sundry does.
Yeah, any D&D stream with more popularity than
You watch that and then you go, okay, I'm going to do that. Exactly that.
Yep.
My players are going to be invested. They're going to love it. I'm going to keep this campaign going for years, and you haven't even done one session yet. I've actually fallen victim to this before.
I think let's be okay. So we are all dungeon masters in our retrospective campaign, so we know what we're talking about. I think everyone does.
As someone who has gone from DMing for 11, 12 people
I'm
at
sorry.
once to down to like 3 or 4 people at once, and having wildly different expectations for every game, I personally don't think as a DM I've ever fallen under that effect, because I know where I stand and I know what my strengths are, and I know that it is not Critical Role-esque. There are some things that I lean more towards into that might be considered that, because I tend to be more into the role-playing aspect than specifically, all right, let's clear this dungeon with these combat mechanics in 5th edition. But
So I think to some extent we're all influenced by everyone, whether it's our first GM or someone else, and it's the overcoming it to realize you're your own person thing.
Yeah.
You know, that's you. I think that's the hardest part. But yeah, I've also fallen victim to that, to the point where I would just steal what was happening on the show and make my players go through it. But luckily, none of them were watching it, so they didn't know.
So you know what's funny is that now you mentioned that I'm since I'm watching through campaign 2,
There's a lot of things.
the name Ormond came up, and I was like,
Did it?
It did, and I was
I didn't
like,
even realize that.
yes, it really did. It's like right when they're going towards Labendia and like the swamp and stuff in season 2.
Oh no, that would have happened. We would have. That,
I
that
know,
name would have happened before.
it was interesting to hear that name and like
'cause
think
ours-
back to it.
Our Sunday group has been meeting for a year.
It would have been like
like
almost a year ago. Those videos came out like
Yeah, but we started in January, and that's when I came up with the first name, or mid, yeah. And so
I don't remember when
that's
those
funny,
videos.
though.
Yeah, it came
That's a
up and I
funny
was like,
coincidence.
yeah.
It's quite possible. I also heard the name. I'm like, that sounds cool. Let me use it. Like I've done that a few times. There was a god where I'm like, this is a cool, unique name. Oh wait, no, stole that. I just modified it a little bit.
Yeah, see, what I do for pretty much all my names of everything is that I literally just go to whatever name generator feels appropriate and just cycle through a good 50 times, and
don't
then
do
I
the-
just splice it together.
You don't do the deep learning of the language, understanding like the certain sounds that come up regularly. True story. I had a Thor ripoff in one of my campaigns, and I called him Thane Orm. Thane Orn, like that was his name. Cleric of skies, blah blah blah. Brett, a person of all of ours who has studied linguistics, that is his thing. He was like, "Oh wow, you went with like a Nordic name that fits into the, like Thor and this," and I'm like, "Oh yeah, totally, yep, intentional, 100%."
You know, one day I'll get there when I have more time to spend DMing and not working or sleeping. But you know.
I feel like you're making that joke, but like you do more than just work and sleep. You eat, you talk to me,
That's true. I hang
That's
out.
about
I play
it.
video games.
you play in my campaign.
That's true. I play in your campaign and I run my own game.
You've died multiple times.
Yeah, well, you know.
Yeah.
We're not keeping track 7.
No, actually, it's only like 5.
Yeah, it's
in this campaign,
four.
It's
twice.
only no permadeaths is what we're talking about per se, because we'll get into that at a later point.
Later video. Anyways,
Later.
so Matt Mercer Effect.
Yeah,
yeah.
so what are you just wanting to talk about it?
I just wanted to get your guys' opinion, maybe experiences I could share mine.
So I don't think it's bad to want to, like, if you enjoy Critical Role, there's nothing wrong with per saying wanting to do like Critical Role. It becomes a problem when that is your expectation. It has to be that without realizing the circumstance they were set in. There are a bunch of actors, not even just voice actors who have done years worth of stuff. They understand like cues and pacing and when to like have certain moments and this and that. And so like they're going to have a difference than like a bunch of people, even if you're like taking theater classes or whatever, like they're going to be a little bit more, not better, but they're going to understand each other a little bit more. And plus they've already had a like
By the time we saw them on camera, they had like a good
like
couple
9
years.
levels.
2,
levels.
I think.
Yeah, 9 levels
2
worth.
years, I think.
9 levels worth of stuff. So they already knew those characters well. And then by the time they started campaign 2, they understood D&D enough to where they could make more complex characters, and thus that is why it is the way it is. So like I think you need to understand you should not hold yourself to that standard assuming that if you can't play like them you're wrong.
Yeah.
And even then, to be honest, watching Critical Role, because they are adults with very busy lives and they just play to have fun, like everyone only remembers like all of the good
kill
stuff.
Box.
But like I don't think like because especially going back and even watching campaign 2, even after all these years of them playing the game, they still ask some of the stupidest questions I've ever heard.
But the chair. Yeah, no, they do.
No, and I'm not even talking about like just like, but I'm talking about like general mechanics. You know, it's like watching them. I'm happy with my players because my players are experienced enough to where they've read that book in and out, and they know what's going on. And it's like I don't have to explain to them what their what the stuff in their class does or anything like that.
I told Dunkerton when Evan moves in, I'm going to be like, all right, cool, let's sit down, open to the sorcerers, show him where the sorcery points are, and be like, here's this mechanic.
I know I don't think I've ever seen him use meta magic.
He has literally just cast and if in that conversation I find out he just wants to cast spells, okay, then let me introduce him to how sorcery points can be converted to spell slots, and then that's it.
Yeah, that's it.
That tends to happen though, that you forget about the mechanics of your own character.
Well, because sometimes the mechanics don't even matter. That character.
Even then, me personally, all the characters that I've played, I've never had that experience. But then again, I really have like even now, I haven't really like, for example, there's only a few spellcasting classes that I've dabbled with. I've never tried wizard. I've tried like a bard warlock mix and such like that, but I've never personally like really dabbled into the super crazy classes, like for example with druid especially, and even just now starting out with cleric because of what happened to my last character, which is always a fun time. Obviously not. But
why would you be?
You're right. Even what happened with my last character, now looking at the cleric and seeing what all they're capable of, it's like I'm hoping that I really do. I want to try and utilize every single mechanic, because especially even for the subclass I'm in, like as a healer, there's a lot of things that that the subclass can do. It's like every single time I heal, I not only do I heal 2 plus whatever the spell's level is. Additionally, I heal myself as well at the same time, and the channel divinity for cleric of life is actually really interesting too. It's up to 6 creatures. I think it's like, I want to say it's like 50 or 55 points of health, but it can never be used to help a creature go above half of their HP total.
Right.
So it's kind of like a last ditch, or it actually feels more like a giant second wind than anything else.
I mean, that happens, like mechanics that have specific, when this happens, you do this, like it's easy to forget that sometimes. Like if you get Polearm Master, if you don't remember, hey, when they enter into your range, which is now 10 feet, then you can make an attack of opportunity as well. Like some people can forget that, and that's to be fair, it is a lot. And that's why I like 5th edition, because it's less of a lot than other editions personally. Yeah. But yeah, going back to comparing, Critical Role does something like I can usually tell within the first 30 minutes to an hour of a Critical Role episode how necessary that episode is to watch.
Or if it's a shopping episode.
Yeah. Well, not even just that. It's like, oh, this is going to be a roleplay heavy episode. So unless they reveal some really big stuff, it's not a big deal if I miss it.
See,
or, hey, this is going to be a combat, and I know this combat isn't important.
See, but like the thing for me is, right, is that...
That's from a watching experience, by the way.
Yeah, but like for me, I don't want to miss anything, even if it is deemed by the masses as unimportant, because I never know when it's going to be called back to.
True. Yeah.
Which is why even if I feel like it's just going to be an episode of shopping, the characters are played well enough, especially in campaign 2. Especially going back in the earlier campaign with the whole...
Actually, fun fact, seeing Travis play forward when you rewatch him playing Grog, you're like, wow, he actually is really good. Like before, I was like, oh, why is he here? He doesn't seem like he wants to be here. No.
Yeah.
Oh man, he does the one where he's haggling and it's like, I'll take 6 of the dragon scales and that many. No, how about 7?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
No, Caleb especially. I think
interesting character.
just seeing what's interesting to me is that he, his character or just wanting to go to the library to just learn. Like, no, because it's interesting that a player would be so invested in their DM's world that they want tomes of knowledge of like, all right, what's the history you've written for your game?
If only we could all be so lucky.
Are you talking about when they went to the smut shop?
No, I'm talking about when they went to the
Cobalt
Soul library, and he's like delving back. Well, obviously he's looking for a specific purpose, but like he's like, I'm looking to figure out who are the most powerful users of magic that have meddled with this type of magic and things like that. And he's like, at one point he's like, I mean, I could just read off to you my notes or my backstory notes for like half an hour if you want. What are you what are you looking for specifically? And so I think a lot of people, I think the Matt Mercer effect probably affects DMs more than it does players. And I only say that because it's the DMs having an expectation of the other players. Whereas as a player, it's more like because you can contribute more to that effort for your DM.
I think a big part of the Matt Mercer effect is that, especially when they're a very good friend of yours and you're trying to introduce them to D&D, your expectation is kind of that they'll even like it. You know,
it's the fear of, all right, here's the thing I love. Do you love it too? Please?
Like for me...
It's like the passing the notes in middle school. Do you like me? Yes, no, or maybe. Do you like D&D? Please? 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 I need more friends.
I was less skittish about it when I was introducing... it wasn't D&D, it was Fantasy Flight Star Wars, which had not numbers-wise for the most part, much more role play. And, my best friends, they love Star Wars, right? They love
easy in.
that sort of thing, acting, improv, comedy, that sort of thing. And I just figured, this is a dead set thing. They're going to love it.
Yeah.
They're going to love it. It's going to be great. And this campaign's going to go for a while.
Yep.
They got through, 3 sessions, which is just like exiting, tutorial land, is what I called it. And one player dropped out, right, out of my 3. Another one left because the other person left, and that was it. I'm still friends with them, still really good friends with them, but it's just something that they're not interested in.
I had a dude so in college, I started a group, and what was funny was it was basically a bunch of nerds like myself who were like, well, let's try D&D. And at that point, that was after the first campaign I ever ran, which lasted a good 7 to 8 sessions, just because of time and location.
I saw him moving.
Yeah. So I was like, I really wanted to, and so I started it with Brett, who was a Lord of the Rings fan, easy in. Tolkien is the reason we have D&D. Zachary Savory, a guy you'll probably also meet on the podcast at some point. He was also a nerd. He was literally like, I want to play. I'm like, sweet, cool. And then I just kept getting more and more people. At some point, Zachary Brooks. There's a lot of Zachs.
There was at one point where I was in Frank's game, and it was known as the Zach campaign featuring Tyler. Yeah.
Oh, that's not a joke. But Zachary Brooks at one point approached me because he had played it in a dorm and played it for 5 seconds, and he's like, I hear you're playing the Dungeons and the Dragons. I would like to join. And I'm like, I don't know, man. Sure. And then he became one of my close friends. And I would have a lot of people who would want to play, and they'd get really into it, and then just for one reason or another they'd leave. I had one guy who left because his first combat he killed one of the other player characters. Granted, he didn't make, from a mechanic standpoint, he didn't make his character, and so that might feed into why he was not as invested, because if you're not making something as much, there's that level of disconnect. I had another guy who were like, yeah, come in on this session. Just watch us and see if it's something you want to do. He comes in, he's already making a character, all the stats and all this. He has a backstory planned out, and then he just watches us, and then he's like, I don't think I want to do this. I don't think this is what I was expecting. And I'm like, okay. And I think that's the thing is you got to get past, it sucks because we want everyone to love it, and I think everyone can, but sometimes not the version you're doing.
I wholeheartedly believe that D&D is genuinely the best hobby that you can have because of how many things that it helps you improve on in yourself, especially in the right settings.
Yes.
So I do believe that, like you said, everyone can enjoy D&D. You need to find the people who are more interested in the technical aspects, and then find the people who are more interested in the world building and the role playing aspects. Because while we try to mend the two together, it does not always work like that.
Yeah.
And you're just gonna because
there are the sessions where it's just combat,
and even especially as myself, like as someone who's played video games my entire life, for some reason I'm not drawn to the technical aspects of D&D as much. I enjoy them.
I didn't realize how much I was like the fighting mechanics. Like I was like, oh, I'm just gonna do this and wing it and this and that, and then I'm like, oh wow, this is fun.
I could run. I think if I had a little bit more time and I had players who were really into it, I could totally run just a total political intrigue, like very, very little combat campaign.
Oh yeah, you could use, and then when it is, it's like war.
Yeah,
like large scale.
And it'd be large. Yeah, it'd be like large scale, and it'd be the point where if it was happening,
we did that. It worked out pretty well.
And if it was happening, my characters would be like generals commanding armies, not just themselves in a combat.
Yeah, no, that could be interesting for sure. I think that's the important thing, though, is to note, like, your style is, like, you can have a style. I am very improv focused. I'm not telling you how much I actually make up on the spot because that ruins immersion.
No, I tell my players how much I make up on the spot
I know,
all the time.
You're very open about that.
Yeah, and that's
you're
fine
like,
with me.
You give this grand speech and you're like, made that all up.
Yeah, because I'm proud of it, and I like to.
I do too, but I also appreciate I'm not going to tell you, so you think I'm that good.
That's always great.
I'm not really about that.
There was one time where my players at USF, they were going into this room, and I was joking with Zach Savory because at that point we were obsessed with escape rooms, and I'm like, I should do one of those in the game. And he goes in, and I'm like, all right, you see this colored corner? He's like, no. And so but I was improving the entire escape room as they were discovering it. They couldn't tell, and I was like, badge of honor. I was pretty happy.
Yeah.
And I told like Brett and Zach, and they're like, all right, good job. And I'm like, yeah, now the boss fight. You're all gonna die. All right.
Yeah.
I think improv is something you kind of need as a GM, like definitely, because if you make these huge plans, they're gonna go the opposite direction.
As every piece of advice will ever tell you.
It would be a shame if someone had a political like war on the brink. And the players could be involved in either side, or a third side, or a fourth side, or a fifth side, and then they decide, no, we're not going to get involved. We're going to go do our own thing. And then they get kidnapped by Strahd. That's what happens, folks.
Our own thing was more important.
Yeah, and you got kidnapped by Strahd because of it. Good job.
No, it wasn't.
But that's an example of improving. It was I had this war, and like both sides are pretty bad but also pretty good. Whose side are you going to take? And you guys were like, we don't want to do that. So I'm like, okay, here's a big bad, here's an obvious bad guy with letter signs, here you go.
Out of the 7 of us, 6 of us didn't want to do it. There was one of us who was very interested in what was going on.
That's not fair to Jeff. He didn't get an option. It's not fair to Jeff.
Okay, I said 7. I don't think Jeff's included in the 7 number.
Then who's me?
No, wait. Is it 7 with Jeff?
Yes.
Oh. I thought it was 7 before Jeff, and with Jeff it was 8.
No, we're 7, and then if Savory were to join, it would be 8, but Dalton's probably going to leave before that, so it would be 7.
Okay.
Yeah. I run in person 7 people. Oh boy. Oh, I don't know how.
I just put my party size up to 6 in the game that I run.
Yeah, good luck.
My party's about to reach 4, guys.
Nice.
Wow.
Personally, I wouldn't mind a 2-person campaign that feels like you could be very interesting.
You know what's really funny?
You would have to. I would tie the backstory super close together personally.
Me and Ethan were actually talking about it, and he's like, I think you and I could co-DM a game really well, because he's like, I think about all of this like really large world building things in the history and stuff. That's what he thinks about. Oh, okay. And I'm just like, all right, so here's this person, and here's their entire life story, and here's how I made it compelling. And like, he thinks that the styles would mesh really well together, which I think they would. I think it'd be really interesting for me and him to co-DM a game. It'd be a lot of fun.
It'd be interesting. Yeah. But I think you have to understand your own style, and that just comes from playing the game and DMing.
And like I said, from my point of view, especially, and I don't even think it really comes from me watching Critical Role. I think it just comes from
my years of being younger and like, all right, time to get really cringy and write, like role play threads on Gaia Online when I was in like middle school. And just like being other characters is really interesting to me because like my normal life's pretty dull. Yeah. So why not do something that's interesting? And DMing gives me the best chance to make a lot of characters come alive. So I think I kind of prefer it more than being a player, but I can really get into being a player.
Yeah.
So
I did have one campaign where I was trying to like give motivation to my villains and have them understand it. And every single time in the middle of the monologue, they're like, I throw my spear at them so they can't monologue anymore. My spear of anti-monologuing hits them. It crits instantly. I win. It's like, cool. Thanks.
Yeah. I mean, if he's distracted.
I mean, I don't.
He's giving this grand speech. His guard's down.
I was thinking about that actually during my most recent session. Yeah. I was like, I can't tell if they're just humoring me or if they're actually interested in what my character has to say.
My plan was to get as close as possible. I almost had. I was like, wait for it.
And that was one of my.
I was keeping track. I was like, that is when I can throw my axe.
And that's whenever and that's the thing I liked about my players in that moment too, is I think everybody except maybe Pedro was keeping track of what else was going on in the room, and they're like, all right, if this goes bad, where are we going? And you could argue that
that's in character for the guy he was playing. Yeah, because it's also because it's Pedro.
Yeah, but I mean, it kind of makes sense for his character because I think his character being this older man who's seeing this kid kind of go through all this, I think he starts to feel more sympathetic than anything else.
Honestly, what I'm really excited for, because right now in our Sunday group, we are at level 11 in Curse of Strahd. Like I said, that wasn't a joke. They straight up got kidnapped by Strahd.
I don't want to be
They're in the Shadowfell, going through a basically speedrun version of Curse of Strahd.
I hate it.
I actually came up with a really interesting mechanic that I'm going to introduce. You'll see.
Oh, fantastic.
No, it's actually fun. But what I'm interested, so most of the players are new, or I'd say have played before, but not to the extent we're playing now. So Evan, Hannah, Dalton, they never played before.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about all your players. I was like,
no, most.
Excuse you.
You haven't played D&D before, right?
This was my first D&D campaign. Yes.
Yeah. So in that extent, you're also.
I think so. Oh yeah, in your original group. Then,
Jet had played in high school, but not to this extent.
He played in the lunchroom or something.
Yeah, exactly. And so then that leaves you and Darius is also brand new.
Yep.
And so that
when Ethan was in the game, it was me and Ethan were the experienced players, and then Ethan left, and then it was just me.
Correct. So from that standpoint, I've always noticed that your first character is very much yourself, because that makes sense. You're just going to react as you would. But your second character
is the opposite.
It could be the opposite. It's the most unique thing. Your second character is where you realize the freedom when it comes to character creation. So Evan's character died. Not sorry.
I hope you see the 7. I didn't watch Left die. But
to be fair, no, honestly, it was just because the dice were rolling that way. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I'm sorry, but let me rip your character. I was mean.
Yeah, you ripped it in front of his face like this.
Frank, speaking of the Matt Mercer effect and just in general DMing.
He doesn't rip their character sheets.
No, but I think you get a little too much enjoyment from punishing your players.
Well, because, listen, you need a bad guy to root against, and I am physically, literally the bad guy, so I might as well play it up a little bit.
I guess.
I try to not play that up in my campaign.
The thing is, I think I can make my bad guys convincing enough without needing to be a jerk outside of the game.
That's insulting to me.
I apologize.
No, you're not. It's for me, it's part of getting into the idea.
I'm not saying.
And I also recognize everyone knows me well enough to be Frank's just being a jerk on as funny, or he's not actually this way.
He's being Frank.
Yeah. I don't know, Frank. I live with you now. I don't know, Frank. I live with you now.
Yeah. And am I like that in real life? That's what I thought.
Depends on the day.
Careful of your wording.
All right. I'll just record and upload to YouTube and show how much of a jerky you are.
Okay. Sure. if that's what would make you feel better, go for it. I'm on board.
Mm-hmm. I don't like this. Also, whose phone is that?
Not mine.
Sorry.
No.
This guy.
Ruining it.
That's what you get.
You ruined the podcast. And it definitely wasn't
a guest like this.
And it definitely wasn't me walking over the camera that ruined it.
Not at all.
Yeah, totally.
How dare you?
Actually having a moment to talk without being interrupted.
How dare you? No, you're not. No, you're not. There is there's a little bit of truth in every bit of sarcasm.
A little bit, like tiny bit. But
Frank and Tyler are going to have a very emotional talk after this.
we're gonna have a really good talk. It'll be great.
I'll watch. I'll referee.
Maybe it'll be while I'm playing Spider-Man.
Referee the argument.
No, because it'll stop. What did you say? But no, I think I'm going back to Evan before I was rudely interrupted. He made a Aarakocra sorcerer, and Xerxes is one of the greatest things to have. Like, it's great because
Pretty good character.
Yeah.
and that's a good example of like finding the character as you played him. Because like at first he was just a normal person, and then like he referred to himself in the third person once, and then kept referring to himself in the third person. And
It's
then
so great.
and then it became this running gag of like always looking for worms, and like
Making bird noises.
unintentionally being hilarious.
Unfortunately, I've gone through too many characters to have one stick you.
To be fair, half of those are not my fault.
I'm not saying they were your fault. I'm not saying any of them were really your fault. Actually, if I'm realistically thinking about it, none of them were technically your fault. And I'm totally fine with that.
Especially this last one.
Yeah, well, you know,
That's true. That's true. That's literally the opposite of my fault.
I'm going to be totally honest with you. I hate the Shadowfell. I hate everything in it, and I don't like Strahd. So I was like, well, I guess if I'm going to be stuck here, I'm playing a different character because Jill doesn't want to be here. So it was either Jill's not going to be there anymore because the deck gives her a wish spell, or Jill dies. That's
I wish for me only to be gone.
Leave the others behind.
Those were the two. That was it. It was either Jill leaves or Jill dies.
Long story
And I was
short,
fine
deck
with
of
it.
many things pull, and two people pulled, and they basically got the same card. One of them, their body
Don John and the Void.
Yeah, look them up. It's funny that's the two you guys pulled.
It's literally like imagine losing your character, but in like opposite ways. It's exactly what happened.
And imagine, like, they're technically not dead,
Technically,
but
like
you're level 11, and you definitely don't have access to the wish spell.
Like they might as
even
well be
find
dead.
them. They might as well be
basically.
dead.
They might as well be.
Yeah, it's like let's just roll a new character.
You remember remember that one time I went to a portal in the Hells?
Oh, yeah.
I remember that.
I don't think it was the Hells. I think it was
The Abyss.
Yeah.
Sorry.
To be fair, I warned
The
you.
demons
that.
and the devils are now going to be upset with me for mixing
You
them up.
did save you did make your first save,
Yeah,
but then you went back.
Yeah.
You hit it with the crowbar, and
And you killed a player for hitting a lock, so really, we just go to all forms of
and
life.
how many times did I warn him? Don't hit that lock.
I guess.
I miss Kazoot.
We're talking about 10 different things, so I think
we
this is time to
tangent it
wrap
off.
up.
Now it's time for us to, before we just turn this into an hour-long
And do you
D&D talk.
remember when this happened?
Yeah.
So thank you guys for joining us. Overall, don't let the Mercer critical role effect. Yeah, just like figure out your own style and go from there.
Yeah, man, just look at the rule books, realize there's a lot of rules, be kind of sad, but then find a way.
And then don't read them like all of us do.
And
All of
level expectation on whether someone's even going to want to play the game.
Yes.
What you should do is just lower your expectations completely and then be pleasantly surprised that anyone cares about your nerdy hobby.
But not to the point of pessimistic.
Sure.
Sure.
All right. Thank you for joining us. I have been Frank Joseph Hall.
I have been Tyler D. Spence.
I've been Zachary Richard Dunkerton.
Oh, he's using an accent. We're going two accents now. No, thank you for joining us. Remember to check out Chore Wars.
And everything else on the channel, and subscribe and like. And
Oh, that's
if you have any
please
interesting,
subscribe. Tell your friends, please.
and if you have anything interesting to say about the Matt Mercer Effect or how you feel about D&D, feel free to comment below.
Comment down below, guys.
Listen, I don't like the personal like call to action stuff, but like
I mean, I do, but you know,
well then that's good. That's why
then I'll
that's
be the
why
one
you're
that
here.
does it.
That's
Yes.
why you're here. He is we're gonna say the technical things.
Yeah.
So thank you for joining us. We will catch you whenever the next time is. And yeah, we'll see you then.
Bye bye.